Alright, let's take a look at number 3. For this one, x equals y to the 2/3. So in order to graph this, we're going to solve for y. How do we get the y by itself? Raise it to the reciprocal. Raise it to the 3/2 on both sides. So y equals x to the 3/2, but there's a little bit more to that than just y equals x to the 3/2. What does it mean if we have like something to the 1/2? It's a square root, right? So to the 3/2 means we're cubing it and taking the square root. So just like if we were to take the square root of both sides of an equation, what do we need to remember? Positive or negative. So this has positive or negative also, because technically we're taking the square root of both sides with that half part of our exponent. Alright, then this equation, y equals x minus 2, and then y equals 8. So we have 3 graphs this time that we're going to put on our calculator. Although, really we have to put 4 equations because this one has 2. So we have x to the 1.5, I'm just going to put it, 3/2, negative x to the 3/2, x minus 2, and then y equals 8. Now the window I have right now, I'm not seeing the y equals 8, so I'm going to change it and make my y max 10. So those two together are the x equals y to the 2/3, and we've got our line, and then our horizontal line. So we have those 3 graphs that we're looking at. And they make up this region right here. Alright, so we have to look at this. This one's kind of obvious. Dx cut is not going to work. If we look at like a vertical line here, it's going to go through this graph and then this graph. Vertical line here goes through this graph and then this line. Over here, this line and this line. So it's not consistent. We don't have the same graph on top of another graph the whole time. So that is not going to work. But if we look at it horizontally, if we're looking at horizontal lines, here the line is always going to be on the right side of this graph. Remember, we can think of this as one thing when it's solved for x. It's one graph. So a dx cut is going to be our best option. I'm sorry, a dy cut is going to be our best option for this problem, because the line is always to the right of this graph. So this is our right function. This is our left function. But remember, we need those solved for x, or in terms of y, to make this work. So our left function is already solved for x. It's given us that way, given to us that way. So that's our left function. The right function, we need to solve that for x. That's just y plus 2. So when we set up our definite integral, we're taking the right function, y plus 2, minus the left, y to the 2/3. Then we need to figure out our upper and lower limits. So we can set our equations equal to each other here, or this one's not the greatest to do that. We can actually use our calculator since we've already graphed these in there. Let's go ahead and find it. We want to find this intersection point. So second trace, and we're finding 5, the intersect. But we need to make sure we're on the right graphs, because we have a lot of graphs going on here. So the first curve is just this part of this graph. Well, that's not where I want to find an intersection point. I need to find it down here. So if you hit the up or down arrow, the down arrow brings me to y sub 2. This is the graph I want. I'm going to just move it a little bit closer. So enter, and then it jumps to the y sub 3, this line, x minus 2. That's the other line that I want to find the intersection point with. So I'm going to hit enter, and enter one more time. And we get it at 1, negative 1. So our y value there is negative 1. Alright, so you can't see that. But we end up with -1 for that. Up here, what's our highest y value going to be? 8, right? We know it's this horizontal line where it intersects these, and that's going to be at 8. So we can put this in our calculator to evaluate the definite integral, and you should get about 29.7. Let's find out exactly. So math 9, we have y plus 2, I'm just going to do it x plus 2 minus x to the 1.5, comma x, comma -1, comma 8. Uh-oh. Shouldn't need it. X plus 2. Huh? Let's try and... Oh, 29 point what? 7? Yeah.